Welcome to today's Age Well webinar. My name is Alison Schneider, and I'm the Education and Training Manager at Age Well, Canada's Aging and Technology Network. In today's Age Well session, AI for solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, optimize and offload to make time for what matters, we will explore tips and tricks for using artificial intelligence to optimize business processes. We're excited to have Pam Stoikopoulos. Oh, I knew I was going to do this, Pam.
Okay,
Pam
Stoikopoulos, yeah.
Founder and CEO, Big Eye Innovation, as our speaker today. So Pam plans to speak for about 45-50 minutes, and then we will have a Q&A session for the remaining 10 to 15 minutes to follow. So during that time, please post any questions or comments for the Q&A in the chat or in the Q&A box, and you can post in there at any time as something comes up throughout the presentation. During the Q&A, you may also raise your hand to ask a question verbally. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for replay on the Age Well members intranet. So without further ado, I will turn things over to Pam.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Just setting up here. Can everybody see my screen? Yes?
That looks great.
Great. So as Alison said, my name is Pam Stoikopoulos, and I'm the founder and CEO of Big Eye Innovation. And today I'm going to talk about AI and entrepreneurship and how to optimize and offload to focus on what matters in your business. So first, I'd just like to say thanks to AgeWell for sponsoring this. It came about in a lunch conversation that I had with Samantha Sandasi, just really telling her about all the tools that I've been using in my business. And she said, hey, that'd make a great webinar. So hopefully you agree. So just before we get started, I just wanted to do a land acknowledgement that Big Eye Innovation acknowledges that our work takes place on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Chippewa, and Wendat peoples. We recognize their enduring connection to this land and express our gratitude for their stewardship over the generations. As we engage in our projects, we commit to learning from Indigenous knowledge and respecting the treaties that govern this territory. So just a little bit about what Big Eye Innovation does. Our vision is to be a partner in transformation and purpose-driven innovation. And I'm a solopreneur who has some people that do work for me, but I'm a consultancy focused on equitable relationship-centered healthcare for the most part. I do also work in the not-for-profit space. We focus on partnering to create ideas and test and build the most promising ones and increasing change adoption for all. A little bit about me. These are my boys who are now 17, 15, and 11. So I'm used to juggling a lot. But as I said, I'm a consultant. I focus on facilitation, innovation planning, and capacity building, mostly in healthcare. What this means, just in terms of what I'm talking about today, is I will talk a little bit about product, but for me, a lot of my target market is business to business or B2B. And just I have a big interest because I have a former life in corporate communications. And I'm kind of glad that I changed gears in 2017 because I think corporate communications is undergoing a huge transformation because of AI. So I just want to one proviso about what I am not. And so I am very upfront that I am not a privacy expert. I am not a seller of software, so I am not getting any kickbacks. I'm not sending you any links so that I get some money. I'm also not a true techie, despite the fact that my consultancy is called Big Eye Innovation. I often focus as a go-between between tech and real people. But I am not by any means a developer or a techie. I'm also not an ethicist. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges and the questions that are raised. I cannot solve them in one hour sessions. So just that as my disclaimer for today. So I think this is such an interesting time to be living in, because I do think I personally have a little bit of a concern about AI and automation, and that as the lead singer of Muse, I'm a fan of Muse, says, we're afraid that AI and automation are going to be taking over so much of what gives humans a feeling of purpose. I do worry for artists and songwriters and a number of people in the creative arts, because I do think that this brings us a lot of joy and it brings us a lot of our identity. And so I think when AI starts to step in, then there are some concerns there, definitely. So I'm not ignoring those. But today, my feeling is like, I want to be Pollyanna positive here and talk about the opportunities. So I do think that there's a real opportunity to use AI to liberate ourselves from some of those thankless tasks so that we can focus on our passion and purpose. And so hopefully today I'm going to show you a few ways on how to do that. So I think the reality for most of us who are entrepreneurs and we're solopreneurs is that we wear an awful lot of hats. We are HR, we are marketing, we are sales, we are the tech person. So we are inundated with hats. And so there's, amongst those hats, there's obviously some hats that some of us don't really like to wear, but we have to, because it's just the nature of the game that we're in. So in talking about AI, I just wanted to kind of give you a picture of where we are at in terms of its exponential growth. I don't think anybody would deny that this is growing exponentially. This is a survey from McKinsey from early 2024, and I'm sure that this has grown even further, but you can see that use of generative AI has just skyrocketed. And I assume that this was early 2024. I would assume that this is probably close to, if not past that 80% mark these days. So I wanted to just get a sense of people here. If you don't have your phone handy to scan, I think there is the link will be in the chat. Allison will provide that. But how often right now do you use AI tools? And let's hope that this actually works and that we can get a sense of how often you use AI tools right now. So if either you scan the QR code to answer the question, or you copy the link in the chat, hopefully. Okay, we got somebody who's using it daily. Oh, somebody who's obviously not using it an awful lot. I'll wait another second for some responses. Anybody else want to chime in how often you're using it? So it seems like there's a lot of you that are using it daily. So probably you have some ways that you can, yep, we've got a few more coming in. So you can probably tell me some interesting ways that you're using it. And I assume that they will be different from how I'm using it. So just want to get a sense of, again, the link will be in the chat, but what tasks you're using AI for. So again, there's another link in the chat, or you can scan the QR code and respond. And you can, I think, hopefully I've put it so that you can click all that apply. Okay, lots of writing. That's not at all surprising to me. Some people are using it for research. We've got a coder. So it would seem that right now, and not surprising at all to me, that the writing is a huge part of what people are using AI for. And I'm not surprised maybe from this group that people are using research as well, or using it for research. Nope, sorry. How do we get out of here? Sorry, guys, having a little trouble escaping here. Okay, back on board here. Okay, so the most commonly reported AI use cases, this is again from that same McKinsey report. Marketing would be at the top, and personalized marketing is also part of that. So, and then design development. So these are sort of the top, what is this, 9 of the AI use cases. And so I think obviously our audience is a little higher on the research end than the general public. So I do think that even if you're in what I like to call a quote unquote old school business, I think the reality is if you ignore AI and what it can do for you, then you do so at your peril. And I think of the, some stubborn companies in the past that said, no, we're fine, nothing is going to change, or we have this proprietary keyboard that's going to take us into the next century, or web-based video is going to go nowhere. So I think AI is one of those things. And I think that, there are sometimes trends where somebody is talking about something all the time. I think this is one of those trends that really you need to take notice of. And I assume like you're all here, so you're all taking notice of it, which is great. But it does have that feeling of drinking from a fire hose. I certainly feel sometimes overwhelmed, oftentimes distracted. So there is sort of an ADHD kind of quality to how much you can take in and how much you can learn about, because there is so much out there and everybody is undoubtedly jumping on the AI bandwagon. There are also some concerns we need to think about when we're thinking about the shape of AI. Obviously, there's some ethical concerns, particularly, and we'll get into some of the AI generated speakers, but there's bias. That's part of a lot of how AI is fed. There's deep fakes. I listened to an interesting podcast about people creating junk books on Amazon, and they trick people into thinking they're buying a book from a legitimate author, but they haven't really done their due diligence, because now apparently in order to buy a book, you need some due diligence. So they're like, it's just AI generated junk. Stealing people's writing styles by training on AI on the originals. So I know that there's artists like Sarah Silverman is one who has started to sue because AI has been fed, her comedy has been fed into AI. And so I know from my own experimentation, if I have a legacy client that's still in communications, and I was just playing around with, he's an olive oil owner. He owns an olive oil company, and I was playing around with AI to see what it would generate in terms of a commercial for him. And so I had said, compare his organic olive oil with commercial grade olive oil, but do it in the style of Monty Python. And I can't actually tell you, it was quite good at doing that. And when I showed it to the client, he was surprised and said, well, this is better than 50% of what other people generate for me, like some of my writers. So it's definitely taking on the voice of others, and that is definitely a concern for the future. We talked about the existential crisis. What's the point if AI does it all? I do sort of have a feeling that we thought that email was gonna like free our lives and make things so much easier. And I do feel like we're just gonna find other things to do possibly. There's obviously, particularly I'm in healthcare, there's a need to consider the implications privacy wise your business information, if you have any proprietary info, client and patient data. And obviously, and I think this is another concern that I have just moving into the future, is the idea of the source of truth. Where is the source of truth? We know that AI can go down some really difficult, challenging, disturbing rabbit holes, and that are definitely a challenge for the industry. But all that to say that, AI I think is where things are going, and why as an entrepreneur should we be using it? I think, as we said, people wear lots of hats, but your scarcest and most valuable resource is time. And so if you can find, I feel like the way to use AI for my business and possibly yours is really to look at some of those things that are high effort and that have low or questionable impact, but they still kind of need to be done, activities that are necessary, but they often feel thankless. That's how we can use AI to our advantage as an entrepreneur. So my approach is really to focus on those, to offload some of those high effort tasks, and I'll talk about what some of those are, and use that additional time, the expression of work on your business, not in your business. So working on strategy, working on kind of creating the big picture or the direction for your business. If you can get rid of some of those hats, or at least, cut half the hat off, then it hopefully will give you some more time to work on your business and not in your business. So how I use it. So one of the things that I really use AI for is really a springboard for ideas. So often while I do contract out some work, often I'm working on my own. And so I miss the one piece of not working at a big organization is I miss some of that idea swapping and that just, bouncing ideas off of people. So I do often use it to generate some ideas. And I think sometimes what AI is really good at showing me is what I don't want. But that's actually important too. So, putting out, using Chat GPT and saying, give me 5 ideas for, a game that I could invent around innovation. And I'm going to actually show you something that I've done. It could give me 5 ideas, 5 premises, and I could say, yeah, none of those really work for me. But it shows me that it starts to steer me in a different direction, and it starts to help me figure out what it is actually that I do want. So I think in that sense, it can be really helpful, even if what it's generating isn't great. Sometimes it's actually insightful, and you glean some ideas of actually what you do want. So I often, so when I'm doing some sort of brainstorm, or if I'm doing some writing, I will often compare different tool outcomes. So some of the tools out there, I think everybody knows, probably the most famous is Chat GPT, and now it's GPT 4.0. Maybe fewer people know that Microsoft Copilot is actually powered by Chat GPT. And it's the Microsoft version, which is free to use. And then there's also another one called Claude. There's several AI, generative AI tools that you can use. And obviously doing those inputs, the more specific you get on those inputs, the better it is, and keep drilling if at first you don't succeed. One example of where AI is still challenged is generative visual AI. And so I kept this slide because I did try to be really specific. So I use MS Copilot, which also has access to DALL-E, which is the visual graphics creator. And I asked it probably 5 times to remove the robotic components of this woman, and it would not do it. So we're still in early days here. We're in the Atari version of video games, if you will. But I think the speed at which things will change will come rapidly. So I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes we feel stuck, or I like to call it cognitive constipation. So you feel like things aren't moving. What am I going to do with this? And so I do find, you're staring at a blank screen or you're staring at a blank page, and you need a blog article, or you need to come up with some ideas for a solution to something. And so I think it's really good. So the Chat GPT, Copilot, these generative AI tools are really good for getting things moving. So it doesn't mean that your starting point and your end point are exactly the same. And I'd say they almost never are exactly the same if you're really an expert at what you do. But they can help you just get things moving, and figuring out what you don't want, figuring out what you do want, tweaking, getting some ideas on a page that then you can work from. So it's really good for that, I find. So I really feel that AI content plus the expertise equals an enhanced end result. There's actually a Harvard study that talks about the fact that when AI tools like Chat GPT or Copilot are used, it actually elevates everybody's work. And the people whose work is the shoddiest actually get elevated the most. But it all, what is it, the expression? All tides float the boat, something. So it basically elevates everybody's performance. And you get a better end result. But I do stress that I think that as an entrepreneur, your expertise needs to be part of the process and the journey. And so it can't be separated from it. And this is the concern that I have with some younger generations, because my kids are teens and they're, they are right in there with AI. But sometimes people are not reviewing things, or they're not adjusting. And part of that, my concern is around that expertise piece. So I think it's really important to apply your expertise when you're trying to generate new ideas or new products or new content. So again, I think lots of us know that social media is important for generating awareness and brand presence, but it is so time consuming, and sometimes it's hard to see the forest from the trees, and it's hard to see there's a question of, why did I do this? Why did I spend 2 hours writing this post? So I do think it is helpful. Sometimes I give myself a timeline. So I'll say, okay, I got 15 minutes to create a post, and with an image. So I'll go into Canva, I'll create an image, and I might get Chat GPT to help me with some ideas for framing that post. And of course, then I edit it again, but I've done it in 15 minutes and I've got it up there. Blog posts are another place where content is king, especially when it comes to your web presence. So blogs can help up your authority and get more people, more eyeballs on your website, especially when search engine optimization or SEO is infused in there. I will say that I find I've had a developer say, okay, I can get eyes on your page with all this AI generated blog posting, but I can tell you that I actually spend more time sometimes with editing those articles because they're so unreadable. So, we are, as I said, in the Atari phase, so things will get better, I think. Plus, I think it's also important that you have a perspective and you have a voice. And so I think it's better to work in reverse and to have a blog post that you create and then use some tools to optimize the SEO. So Some of those tools I will put into a little worksheet at the end that I will send out if you want it. One is called SEMrush, another one is called Neuron Writer, but they really help you to optimize your web posts. I know I can't believe I'm talking so much about Microsoft, and it is sort of insane, because if you'd asked me 5 or 6 years ago how much I like Microsoft, I could tell you, like, I really did not like Microsoft, but Microsoft has invested a ton in OpenAI, who have created Chat GPT. And they have come leaps and bounds in terms of their product, including PowerPoint. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the tool in PowerPoint, but it's called Designer. And if you have, I think it's Office 365 and you're in PowerPoint, if you click on the Designer thing, if you have a image and text, it will show you like 30 different ways to lay out your image and text. It has saved me so much time over the years. I do a lot of presentations. And I remember when I used to work in an organization, I would show all the VPs my little trick, and they were very excited about it. Canva also has some great tools. I have a pro membership to Canva, so I have additional tools, but there is a free membership that offers a lot of variety and some AI generated tools, including a background remover. And I'm going to show you some of the tools on Canva that I use. As I said, doing generative specific images is something that you can do through DALL-E, which is part of Chat GPT and also Copilot. But generating those specific images, sometimes they can look kind of creepy. Again, early days. As I said, extracting tools for photos, video, etc. One of the tools that I was just telling Allison about before this was that I think it's Premiere Pro now has an remover. So if you're part of a podcast, or you have a video that you want to distribute to the world, it will remove your uhs and ums. And as I said to Allison, she can post this video online only if she removes my uhs and ums, because I know I'm live here. So this is how you know I'm a real person. So it's a great tool to help you advance your profile online, to improve the quality of your videos, and improve podcasts as well. So as I said, I'm B2B, so I don't often market a product, but I did my fake marketing test because I wanted to test out for this, I wanted to test out AI tools to help me create a card game for change. So I will tell you that I am an innovation consultant, and it seems like anybody in the innovation space who is a consultant has their own deck of cards. And they have this exclusive, we have this innovation game, and it's so great for organizations to use in the context of a group meeting to learn about the tools of innovation. So being an innovation consultant, I'm jumping on this bandwagon. And I decided, for me, change is really important, and change management is super important when you're doing innovation, and is usually the biggest roadblock for people to adopt to a change, or people to adopt to an innovation. Is the people are the biggest challenge. So I decided, okay, I'm going to create a card game based on change. I'm only going to use either free AI tools or existing AI tools that I have. And I don't have that many, I will say. And so I gave myself that challenge to do for business and to create a 30-second video. So my cards here, the actual product. So I asked both Chat GPT and Copilot to create a name for my game, and base it on ADKAR methodology, which is it's a anagram for a methodology that's used for change. As I said, AI is not great with images, and it's really bad with words and images. So just so you know, I'm well aware that there's all kinds of weird text here. Anyway, so first I asked it to make some names. And I said, create 3 names for a new card game geared to organizations to help their staff prepare and handle company change. So here's what Copilot gave me on the left. And then Chat GPT 4.0 is on the right. I kind of liked the Copilot ones better, just in general. I liked also that it gave me a kind of a description why it chose these. So each name is crafted to evoke a sense of strategy, adaptability, and a journey, which are key elements in managing organizational change. So then I asked it to create the game based on ADKAR and rules. So it did that. I'm not going to go through all the rules, but it gave me, here's the cards that you have to do, the object of the game. And I also asked it, I gave it the objective of it being a 30-minute game, because I thought I didn't want it to be like a 3-hour game, but a 30-minute game where people could learn the basics of change management. And so it gave me the rules of the game, and then I decided to choose the name Pivot Play. So I very quickly in Canva, again, I have Canva Pro. But there are lots of free tools in Canva. I created a brand for the card game. I developed a 30-second script adapted from a Copilot script. I decided, okay, I'm going to try out the avatar. Early days. But Canva is, so I believe that this is free. I know it's part of Canva Pro. I'm not sure if it's a part of the free version, but I developed a 30-second video in Canva. It took me about 3 hours to do, but honestly, to be fair, it was really the first time I'd really used Canva video in any sort of depth, and particularly I was using an avatar. So I'm going to show you what I came up with. Oh, first I'll show you just how I came up with it. So here's the avatars, and I'm just going to play this because I recorded this.
Okay, so I picked my avatar. Who is this woman here? She seemed a little less creepy than some of the other ones. I have adjusted the text because it didn't read my web address very nicely, and I find it does better on short sentences. So let's see if I can render this now. So I'm just gonna hit. I have selected this voice here, which I decided was the least glitchy. And now I'm going to create the video. It's going to take a second to generate. Still rendering, so we're just going to wait another second. It probably takes about 30 seconds. Of course, I'm going to cut some of this out. Okay, so let's see how glitchy she is now. How crazy looking.
Visit bigeyeinnovation.com for more information on the game deck. There you can also learn how our expert team can help you build a dynamic, engaging change workshop that transforms. Get ready to lead the change you want to see.
Right. So I'm not loving her look, and she looks a little flat. So I mean, the thing is, these avatars are fun to play with if you really hate the way you sound or look online. And the other really interesting thing I like is I can go in and edit the video, and I can just remove the background.
Uh-oh. Okay, hold on one sec, guys. Something is happening in my rendering. Okay. So this is actually so as I said, yeah, I'm not a video editor, but I was able to pull this together.
Welcome to Pivot Play, a fun interactive game to steer your team through transformation. In just half an hour, your staff will become change champions. They'll learn how to use the basics of the ADKAR change model to understand what drives positive change and how to apply these ideas to real-world situations. Visit bigeyeinnovation.com for more information on the game deck. There you can also learn how our expert team can help you build a dynamic, engaging change workshop that transforms. Get ready to lead the change you want to see.
Okay, so as I said, not a video editor. Hold on a second. I'm having trouble moving to the next slide here. What's really cool about this, especially if you work in multiple languages, is so again, here's another thing where I think the Chat GPTs of the world are going in terms of that fluency of language translation. I heard one of the biggest translation companies is actually, which is a little scary to me, has gotten rid of so many translators because of this. But for somebody who can't afford a translator, it will. So what I did was I put it into Chat GPT. I asked it to do the I asked it to translate to Japanese. And my family is, my husband is Japanese, so I know a little bit. So I'm sure it's not a perfect translation, but it's actually not half bad. And as I said, it's going to get better and better. So here's a situation where you could possibly use something as an advertisement if you're advertising in a different country, or you need to translate a document because your French isn't great. I would recommend, so even people who I know who work bilingually, what I would recommend is whatever your translation. So one of my friends, Jen, she works for a not-for-profit. She's very fluent in French, but her first language is English. She often will translate for like a social media post, and then she'll just run it by her native speaking French husband, who will say yes or no. And she said most often, the translation based on, the cleanup that the AI does is actually pretty good. But let me just show you her. I'll give you like 9 seconds of her in, hold on a second. I'll give you 9 seconds of her. Sorry, I went from the current slide. I'll give you 9 seconds of her in Japanese. There we go.
ボットプレイへようこそ。変革を通じてチームを導く楽しいインタラクティブゲームです。
So that's so that's 10 seconds of her accent's pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm able to do that in minutes, and you can really see how just even communication is going to be so different in the future in terms of like how easy it is if you're in a different country doing business, how easy it is going to be to communicate with other people. So as I said, PowerPoint has that design tool. So if you go into Designer, it will do like 100 layout options or 30 layout options for each slide. There's also an AI tool that I don't know if anybody's tried, the Rehearse with Coach, but it will provide you with feedback on your delivery. Sometimes it can be annoying and stressful, but if you don't have anybody to work off of or present to, to practice, then it's a tool that you can use. So another place where I think that AI has real opportunity is, and I assume from the research crowd here, depending on the tools that you use for research, and I think that they tend to be more specific because you want to make sure that your sources are really legit and credible, is that summarizing and insight gleaning. So, it can help you hone in on key details of a big report, documents, or swaths of information like RFPs, so requests for proposals, for meetings, for interviews, and focus groups. Also, it can help you with, pulling out sentiment analysis, right, and giving you some ideas about that. I think that for meetings, it can be a great tool to extract extract and summarize. So I know that Zoom has some pretty interesting AI tools available in the Pro version. I'm not sure what the cost of that is. I know that in Microsoft, Microsoft automatically, Teams has a transcribe button, but the summary tool is like additional cost, and it's pretty hefty, I think. But I know that with Zoom, some of the AI tools that I've seen and I haven't used yet, I will say, is that it will summarize the meeting notes. It will create kind of like points of interest or chapters for the meeting. It is able to catch you up if you are late to a meeting. You can say catch me up, and then it will generate the notes or a summary of the notes from the part that you missed in the meeting. So it's a pretty powerful tool. Again, there's, from what I've discovered about privacy and encryption, they are encrypted, but don't quote me on that, because I'm sure for every time I say that it seems pretty safe, I'm sure there's going to be somebody who's going to refute that. So do your due diligence. Definitely make sure people know they're being recorded and summarized. Because, you know, for something like, I can imagine where, you know, I'm on a volunteer board and we're having trouble getting a secretary because no one really wants to take notes, but this might be the secretary for our board meetings from now on, if we can make sure that all the privacy issues are addressed. So as I said, for me, I do a lot of interviews prior to doing workshops. So I want to get some analysis on, you know, what people are thinking and feeling. So it allowing me to transcribe and then summarize that information is really important and valuable and a huge time saver. It's yeah, as I said, it allows you to catch up. And you can ask for, you know, you can put in a large report and say, please summarize this report and give me the top 15 key points. Other one is, you know, people who are working in academia, people who are working in healthcare. There's, you know, when you're doing a request for proposal, those proposals can be pretty meaty sometimes. And so you can ask it to summarize the key points. And I watched a talk last week on this and saying, you know, you can ask it to give you the 15 winning points, you know, that will help you to win this contract. So this is another interesting, really, and again, I have not personally used it, and this is actually a quotation. I forgot to throw the quotes in, so sorry about that. But it's this idea of so there's a company called Synthetic Users. So I thought this was such a fascinating product. And so the idea is that you're using, you're asking this synthetic user, so it's powered by AI, questions like that you would, like, let's say in a focus group. And so you're drilling down on this. And so this was part of a Substack. Somebody had done a review of it, had tried it out and did this review and said, it's really not there yet. And like, it really, they were really worried about the ethics of it. And so this was the chat amongst people, was like, AI to optimize and automate large parts of research? Yes, please. AI to replace humans and human insights? F no. So, you know, I think right now, again, we're in early days, and I think we're also feeding things optimal kind of standard answers. So is it really that insightful if you're just getting the standard response? And then the other thing that's so interesting, I think, about this is, so Niels Norman Group did a study on this, and they said it's chatbots actually have this tendency to want to please. They don't always model human behavior well, because they want you to be happy with their response. So if you see this real interview, it's like, did you finish all 7 parts of the course? The real user says, no, to be honest, I didn't finish all the courses. I did up to the third course, but because I completed the first, I got a certification in the fundamentals. And then the synthetic user said, yeah, I completed all the courses mentioned. Each of them played a significant role in broadening my knowledge and skill set in UX research and design. So what you can see is really that that synthetic user or that fake AI generated user is really not providing the depth of knowledge and depth of experience that a real user is providing. And so it's being, it's being fed kind of generic or standard stock responses, and then it has this bias to model good human behavior. So, I mean, to me, the verdict on that is that bias is still embedded and you're digging deeper for insights and experience that are atypical. So my question would be like, is it better than nothing? Like, so that was sort of their, the company's approach or rebuttal, because they were on the Substack, was, we think it's better than nothing. If you can't do any user research, then it's still going to provide you with better than nothing responses. But I don't really know how much better at this point. So the other place where I don't do a lot of cold calling, but I could see a use for this is the chatbots and more of the conversational AI for follow-up phone calls and fundraising. And I have to tell you that I received a phone call, and I think it was from Mad Canada. And I tried immediately after I talked to them, I tried to find out what software they were using, because I will say, probably lots of people remember Emily, who was Belle's chatbot, who was awful. This was, I was about 4 minutes in before I actually realized, oh my gosh, this isn't a real person. And it took me 4 minutes to figure that out. Google has introduced something. There's a video on somebody trying to make a hair appointment, and the person on the other end has no idea that it's actually a chatbot, like chatting with her and making a hair appointment. So certainly these are things, if you do cold calling, this, I think we're still early days, but I suspect this is going to get cheaper. This is going to get better. And this might be somewhere where, but then it begs the question, is it just going to be chatbots talking to each other all the time? But it's an interesting thing to watch and consider moving forward. So as I said, social media is, helping with post drafts, standard email responses, creating a quick email about something. I actually think I've seen people do this, and if I get an upsetting email that makes me, upset or angry, I kind of have a rule that I don't respond for 24 hours. But I watched a person who was really angry about something do a Chat GPT response that was, it towed the line. It was not emotional in any way, shape, or form, and it was a logical response that they couldn't write. So another interesting use. And then I have already talked about proposals, but I want to talk more about this, because this is what I actually was talking to Samantha about when she suggested that I write this. For me, as a solopreneur, for the most part, writing proposals is such a time suck. And it's one of those things where it's often a shot in the dark. You don't know what is, you don't know how many people are going for this. You don't know what your chances are. But you feel like I kind of have to respond to this because it's sort of perfect for me. So it used to take me about 4 days to pull an RFP together. And I will tell you that, using tools like Chat GPT and Copilot has really reduced that to about 1 day. And it still takes a full day of work, but it's from 4 days of my time to 1 day is a huge time savings. So what are the things that I do? What I love to do, one of the things that I was like, maybe I'm going to try this and see how this works. I fed it the specs of the proposal. So it was like, here's the budget. So I have a budget of $40,000. The project needs to be done between the months of September and June. And here are the activities that I need to do. Put this in a chart with an allocated budget for each task that it requires and a timeline. So it literally spit out something that I could copy and paste. So like, again, this is like a 10-minute solution to something that would take me probably 3 or 4 hours to do on my own. Also, if you've, created something and then you ask it to summarize, you could, executive summaries are hard to write. So it can give you at least a draft of that. It can also, I've done it in reverse where I did a chart for like, here are the activities. I spent the time and created the chart, and I said, okay, expand on these details, tell them exactly what I'm going to do. And it was actually pretty good at giving me, obviously I had to adapt some of them, but it was pretty good at adjusting those into a table form taking the table form and then making it into kind of an expanded summary of the activities that we're going to go on. So huge time savings, really good. And because you have those, that document that's quite specific, it's a really good place to use that. How are we for time, Allison? Sorry, I don't have my clock.
Yeah, we should probably start wrapping up. It's 1:52.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So just to talk about, there's the integrations. I talked about Copilot a lot, Microsoft, but Google has Gemini and Apple has AI intelligence, and it's just a way to kind of integrate. Microsoft will do email chain summaries, which is really impressive. It will transform if you have these, they're quite costly right now. So putting Copilot integrated into Microsoft is like, I think it's more than the business software, but you can do all of these different things with it, and it will help you do data visualization. It will create a presentation from a Word doc, will help you build formulas out. The summary thing, I tried it with a board piece, and it did actually a great job of summarizing a board chain of conversation. I didn't post that. This is obviously just from the internet. Another tool that I use is, and again, there's lots of different tools. I use one called Easy Expense, but there's these tools. I hate accounting. So these tools you just scan it and it will extract all the information. And then I save it in a folder, and then I send all of that to my accountant, which is just the easiest thing. And it made accounting a little bit fun for me. Just beware that it's a rabbit hole. So, my tips are really to set aside that time in your schedule to explore and learn and test out new tools. I personally think starting, instead of trying to find all the newest, latest and greatest, is like figure out the tools that you use now and how they're integrating AI. Because I can guarantee you most digital tools right now are looking for ways to do that. These are the ones that I use. Or I find freemium models. So that one that Easy Expense one, that expense one was a freemium model. And then it was a pay what you want, which I loved, and they're Canadian. So I was like, okay, I'll pay them $10 a month just to use this tool. I just think just to remember that AI is an expediter and not the expert. You are the expert. Find the stuff, the low-hanging fruit that you hate doing. These are the things that I hate doing. Remember the risks in terms of that privacy and proprietary information, and know them. And just remember that it's not the replacement for deep thinking. This is to help you enhance your deep thinking, not to replace your deep thinking. So this is where you should be focusing on your business and not in the business, and doing some of that deep thinking about your strategies and your way forward. And that's it. Sorry, I got 5 minutes for questions.
That's okay. We don't have any questions that have come in yet, so I think people are just still thoughtfully reflecting. There are definitely
it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a fire road.
And there are so many tools, so many options, and it's constantly changing. So it's something you really have to invest time in. So you've done a lot of the work. This is a good start, right? So thanks so much for this really cool presentation. I'll put that feedback link in there, but I wanted to give you a question first. Oh dear, it's very hot in Sacramento. Leah, I hope you're all right. Because we've been talking about all these tools, and there's free versus paid or pro, there's all these different levels. So I was wondering how you kind of determine the cost benefit of subscribing, or how do you determine if a tool is worth the money, the investment for your entrepreneurial.
It's a great question, because I think budget is always part of it. I honestly, I try to use a free trial, and I actually specifically book through PayPal so I can easily cancel. So, because you can go into your things and cancel if you don't like it. Or so I see what the cost is. So for example, like even Copilot integrated into business for Microsoft. So the license, so I called and inquired about it because it has all these cool features, and I was like, okay, so how much is it? So it's $30 a month, but you have to commit to a year. So that's a fairly big commitment. And I mean, Copilot is free, but this integrated version is $30. My business license for Microsoft is $18. So it's almost double that. So what I did was I tested it out on a personal account. I upgraded the personal for $8, and they give you 1 month free of Copilot. So for me, it's like finding some workarounds to see if you can have that trial period. And most, aside from Microsoft and Copilot, which seemed a little bit of a stinky kind of move, most do offer a free trial. So it's just a matter of keeping off, or putting it in your calendar, like to cancel. But I like to start with what I already have. So, I mean, for facilitation online, I need Mural. So right now I'm still using Mural. So it's like, okay, let me check out these AI tools that it already has. And like, for me, the surprise was Canva, where I already, I had the membership, and then seeing all these tools, because there's like lots of companies doing a similar thing, but Canva kind of has the, it's not the best necessarily, but it's certainly the broadest for marketing and communications. And so just, I think, like my advice would just be start with the tools that you have and see if they will be enough. And if they're not, then, if you need a specialty tool, then I think go elsewhere, and then try a free trial before you sign up.
Okay, there are a couple questions. So how do you use AI to find RFPs, requests for proposal?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just have a few places where I look for RFPs. I have tried to get it to search for me, but it's not so great at that yet. So I just go to certain, like there's Merck's, there's Charity Village has some RFPs. It depends on what your business is, like, to find those, right? So you might need, I haven't seen a Merck's RFP that has really appealed to me that I went, and there's different websites, but you could probably ask it, what are some good RFP websites, and it will generate some, but I haven't found it really good as that kind of, I've tried to use it for client stuff and it hasn't been great yet, but I imagine that will be on the horizon. And somebody will integrate AI and do that for me.
That's right. Okay, one more question, and then we'll have to wrap up. So how do you learn about all these new tools? Do you hear from newsletters? This person is just starting out in AI, so they're really interested on any beginner training or tips you might have.
Great. So what I usually do is I follow a number of people mostly on LinkedIn. I'm not so into Twitter and other social medias because I kind of, again, it's like distraction. So I typically stick to LinkedIn. I follow a few key people on LinkedIn who will present things. Sometimes it comes out of need. I need something, and it's like, there must be an AI tool for that. And I will search it up, and then I will like look over some reviews and try to see who's got a freemium model, or who's got a test of like a 2-week trial. And then I also a number of people on and so I can provide some of this, some of the people that I follow as well. But sometimes that, whenever I see somebody who's created like a giant list of cool AI tools. Like on LinkedIn, sometimes people do that. They'll just list a bunch of tools. I'll save it. And then when I have time, like, you know, if I have my allotted Friday afternoon time to look through those, I'll look through some of the ones that like interest me most or would be most beneficial for my business.
Awesome. That's so great, Pam. So I'm gonna again let everyone know they can give you feedback. That link is also in the chat, so feel free to do that. Thank you for your time today, Pam. This is really helpful. So many great uses, and we will send everyone the link to the recording as well as all the helpful information you've offered. So thanks so much.
Hopefully it's helpful. Some people might have already, like, they may be ahead of the game on this, like, more than I am, but I feel like data is one of those things where I'm still not digging deep, and I know that there's probably some experts here on how to delve into data, because I think that that's a huge one.
That's another webinar, I guess. That's
a whole other webinar.
But anything we can learn, there's always helpful things to learn. You never know it all, right? So I'm sure anything you send will be very helpful. So thank you to our participants today as well. I hope everyone has a really lovely rest of their day, stays cool, and hopefully we see you at our next A12 event.
Have a great day, guys. Thanks.